Notification.
Okay. I see only Meg.
You don't see yourself?
Mm.
Oh, I don't want to.
All right, I think it's working.
Ryan is
It's
completely
on my,
frozen.
but
Of
I only
course.
see Meg. Oh, I guess maybe it flips between whoever's talking. Yes, it goes back and forth between who's talking.
On the live.
That's what it's doing right now.
I think it's working.
It's on my, I only see Meg.
Ooh, I hear echo.
That's because I have it on.
Oh,
I'm trying to. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to have it so that everybody shows at the same
there
time.
is. I don't know
Sorry,
about
everybody. If anybody's here watching this, I
on your
apologize.
phone. I
Doing this
know
bit
on
modified
computer.
today.
You can like click on the top right corner and it shows like speaker or gallery. Gallery will show everyone. Speaker will just, as it's doing now, flip back and forth.
Yeah. All right. Well, I went to like the meetings. I did nothing. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Feels very weird for me to not have the chat in front of me. All right, what's going on, everybody? Sorry, we're a bit modified today. Chris couldn't join us, and my laptop's not working, so we're streaming right from Zoom from my phone. Just kind of doing this old school.
We got
That's old school, I
pixelated
guess.
Ryan.
It is what it is. We're not gonna let the technical difficulties get to us, and we're gonna talk some Dead City, and just gonna let the vibes roll and just not let it bother us.
That's right.
I'm silently panicking on the inside, but it's okay. We're fine. Everything's good.
But you're
It's
not
all
showing
good.
it, so that counts. I mean, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So episode 1, Dead City. Let's before we kind of go through everything that happened, what were your guys' general feels for what happened?
Within the episode or
Mhm.
leading up to the
Yeah.
episode?
Everything.
The opening scene with Maggie like kind of at like the barge or something, that was like probably like the best lighting and the best cinematography in all like 13 years of The Walking Dead history.
Yeah.
I liked it because it was like super mysterious. You didn't know what you were getting into, and then boom, like you dove right into it, and I loved it.
Yeah, and being from New York, I really loved seeing like the New York City, like architecture, the buildings and everything, and just seeing that silhouette, just like I don't know, it made me happy, to kind of see it.
A zombified Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely.
I was
What
so
about you,
stoked
Renee?
for that.
Right?
Did you ask? I was trying to do all the I was trying to push it out on social media. What was your question? So
what was your
What is
overall
2 +
feel
2?
for the episode, for the first episode?
first episode I thought was wonderful. I thought they did a great job of getting things moving right along, and I felt like I guess the comment that I had used in the article that I when I did the preview article or like the review article, I said that I felt like it was very comfortably familiar until it became drastically different because I felt like as she was driving down that road in the blue truck, I thought about the blue pickup truck they used in season 2. And so I was like, oh, kind of remind me of Herschel's Farm and all that stuff. And so she's just driving along, and that felt very Walking Dead-ish. And then they get to the Hudson, and it's like, okay, this is not the Walking Dead anymore. And so, yeah, I just thought that overall feel, made, like diehard Walking Dead fans feel comfortable and like, okay, this is, you got two, and your familiar characters as well. But then when you get into the city, you could definitely just had a whole new feel to everything. So yeah, I thought the first episode was amazing. And I am not a reactional watcher. And the episodes that I've watched so far, I have had physical reactions to each one of them. So I thought that was interesting because that's not generally how I watch TV.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Meg.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that for me, the first, and I'm going to say in a general sense, I'm not going to talk about the second episode yet, but for me, the first and second episode for me feels like classic Walking Dead, just enough for you to make that connection, but not enough that it feels recycled. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like they're reusing things. It feels new, but there's enough there to get that connection to Walking Dead and to almost give you that nostalgia of like season 1, season 2, season 3 Walking Dead. And I loved it.
I feel like this is going to be kind of piggybacking off of both of what you were saying. I feel like this is going to be a show where if nobody has ever seen a single Walking Dead episode, you can dive in fresh without knowing the history, because you're kind of slowly introduced to it throughout the episodes, so that if you do like it, you can go back and watch all 11 seasons, or you could just stick to this and you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talked about this, when we were texting on our group chat, but, there was some very cool connections that were happening between the first episode and, later on the second episode, and the Walking Dead itself. And for me, it was the Negan Maggie stuff. And just seeing Negan, I don't want to say it this way, but putting Maggie in her place. And it really was, because we talked about that if Negan was the main character from season 1, episode 1, and we later on found Rick and his group at, season 6, season 7, if it was that perspective, Rick would be the bad guy. He killed Negan's people in their sleep in the satellite. Rick, from that perspective, is the bad guy. And it's cool because I think it was the final episode, right? It was 11/24, where Negan had said to Maggie, like, I did what I had to. And, and for her, I don't think that's clicking with her. I don't think it clicked with her until the second episode, in my opinion, of Dead City.
See, the thing is, like, at the end of Walking Dead, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but she basically said that, she's like almost gonna try to like let it go almost. But then episode 1 of Dead City comes out, and it's almost as if like she kind of went back on it. Like she's still, I mean, granted, it was her husband, I get it, but it was almost as if she's going back to the old Maggie that resented him so much. Like kind of went back on old behaviors, if that makes sense.
Well, I think part of that has to do with the fact, and I think, Renee, I think from what we've talked about, I think you might agree with me on this, but I think part of it has to do with the fact that Maggie has this preconceived notion in her head that Negan created the monster that is the Croat.
Okay,
and
yeah, I guess
that the Croat kidnapped Herschel. And if not for Negan, she would still have her husband. Her son would not be threatened by a maniac, and her family would be whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so while she was making a lot of progress towards the end of The Walking Dead itself, like we saw where she was like, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget, where we almost saw her softening up to him. A lot has happened. Again, we talked about this in our pre-show, but the timeline is very odd between the end of Walking Dead and the beginning of Dead City. We're not really sure if it's, what the exact timeline on that is, because there's been kind of conflicting reports coming from actors and writers and producers and whatever. But that's a lot of time for her to think. And especially when she's not seeing Negan every day, and he's not doing small acts of service to kind of get in her good graces, I feel like she's slipped, like to your point, Meg, I feel like she's slipped kind of down the ladder, so to speak, and when Herschel being kidnapped by one of Negan's men, essentially one of his old soldiers, that for her, that really damaged any positive thought she had about Negan.
I like the way you phrase that. That makes a lot more sense than what I had in my head.
And I want to address something in the chat. They're asking about, do we think if Maggie lied to Negan about her story? And I don't think she lied about the story, but I do think this, I wrote an article because I have a theory that she is in league with the Croat to exchange Negan for Herschel.
I love when you get theories.
Yep. And so that's been my latest theory. I wrote an article about it because the way she said something, or I think when she was asking, like, you haven't been very forthcoming about him and this and that, like she was trying to dig deeper into what that relationship was. And something she said in that, I don't even remember what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to give Negan up. So
that would be so cool.
Yeah. So I thought that would be awesome, but we'll see. I mean, who knows what'll pan out, but that was my theory. I don't necessarily think she lied about things. And I think some of the lying, I've read some articles about where people think the lying's coming from is because of the grain. But again, there's still that disconnect between Hilltop and the bricks. We discussed this. So Hilltop, we all know what Hilltop is. The bricks is the new location, the new Hilltop people are referring to, but it's actually called the bricks. And that's where Maggie is. So it almost appears that the Croat had attacked Hilltop, took the grain from there, forcing Maggie to move to this new location where they do have plenty of grain and things like that. And again, that's just me piecing things together. That doesn't mean that that's the truth. That's just kind of things I've pieced together by reading and looking and rewatching and going back and watching the Walking Dead last episode.
Honestly, I trust your opinions more than a lot of other people's. So if you say it's Bible.
Because I obsess and watch and like brief and in slow-mo and
frame by frame.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just my opinions. And I think that's where, people, I understand with some of the lying, they were thinking that she lied about the grain just, to Negan. And like I said, I feel it's not that, it's that she's going to betray him to the Croat. But again, like I said,
right, you better buy a lotto ticket.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? I think logically it makes sense, right? So what reasoning would the Croat have to kidnap Herschel?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll jump forward a little bit to episode 2, but we find out that the Croat went full Vincent Van Gogh and lost his ear to Negan shooting him and missing hitting him in the head. And the Croat has been essentially harboring these feelings for over 10 years now at this point. I mean, it's been a long time with all the time jumps and everything.
Obsession.
And so he's been fuming with this. And I have to imagine, to Renee's point, he's got to be planning something. And there has to be something that caused Maggie to run to Negan's doorstep. Like, okay, the Croat used to be one of his men, but I think that Maggie has such a distaste for Negan that even if she knew that the Croat was one of Negan's old people, she would have gone to get Herschel herself. I don't think she would have gotten Negan unless she needed to get Negan.
As a part
for me, having her groveling at his feet to help her is very unbecoming of Maggie, in my opinion. I agree with you, Renee. I think there's more to it than that. I think I don't know if she's lying or just outright withholding information.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we know Maggie will do anything for Herschel. Herschel's her last living relative.
Yep.
And she's proven that she'll do whatever it takes. And what mother doesn't, that's what we do. Yeah. We protect our children. And so I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm just saying that that's, as a mother, you were going to put on that mama bear mode and you are going to defend your child to whatever end that is. And so it just makes sense. So yeah, it'll be hard, it'll be interesting for sure to see what pans out. Especially, so.
It was kind of cool seeing to jump ahead to episode 2 again, it was kind of cool seeing Herschel as like an angsty teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but you know what? In a show that's about the end of the world, you think that stuff like that doesn't exist anymore, that everybody forgets their problems and whatever. But seeing Maggie sit on the bed with him and she looks at his drawing and he crumples up and he goes, no, it's terrible. And he goes running off. I'm going to Xander's house. And, just acting like that angsty teenager for me made me laugh. You know what I mean? Because it's like, a teenager will still be a teenager, even in the zombie apocalypse,
I saw this tweet. It was the scene with Ginny and like the school, going back to like the old world. Apparently like the teacher talked about like pop quizzes and they're like, really, it's the apocalypse and this is what you bring to it, a pop quiz?
Yeah. And it was cool too because it was like seeing the classroom, when Ginny was being introduced by the teacher to the class, you saw the two girls in the back of the room that were like, next to each other and they were whispering something. And, that felt very like, middle high schoolish, you know what I mean? Like that drama, that angst. And then you also had the teacher talking about the pop quiz but also the classes they were teaching was about foraging. And so it was like a taste of the old world mixed with the survival skills they need in the new world. And so it was like this very cool, like amalgamation of just like the new and the old world. And once, at this point in the Walking Dead timeline, it's been well over a decade at this point since the outbreak, since the collapse. And that's pretty accurate, is when life would have to start getting back to normal in some way, almost like what the Commonwealth was doing. And so it's just kind of cool to see that like this is how they're trying to regain their normalcy that they had before the outbreak. Nope, I think it froze. Okay, no, we're good. It froze. It skipped.
Nothing froze on my end if it helps.
It froze on my end, so I don't know. I'm just rolling with it. I'm just, if I talk and no one's here to listen, whatever. I talk to myself all the time anyway, so whatever.
Renee, we should just be quiet for a moment and let him think.
No, don't fuck with me like that, please. Don't do that. Not today, please.
No. You're good.
So, the first episode was a lot of setting up for the premise of what was going on. We have the marshal that we're still we don't really know too much about in the first episode. We're learning there's a bounty on Negan. And kind of going back to my point about, trying to get back to the old way of life, that seems to be their attempt at some form of law and order. And I don't think they got the specifics, but they said that Negan had killed a bunch of people, and which is why there was a bounty on him. Right, Renee?
Yeah, right.
So that was actually kind of cool. I don't know the actor's name that plays the marshal.
It's Gaius Charles is his name.
Okay.
He's on Friday Night Lights and I think Grey's Anatomy.
That I know him from
That's
Friday
where
Night
I know him
Lights.
from.
That's where I know him from.
That's where Josh knew him from. When I told him, because I got to interview him, so Josh was like, "What? You're interviewing Smash or something?" And
yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
And I have a theory about they had asked in the chat too about Annie and that, and I said my theory of why Negan's wanted is I believe his hand was forced again. I feel these men did something to Annie and a child, forcing Negan to kill them, and that's why. Because he keeps saying, there's more to the story. There's more to the story, and I'm sure we will learn more to the story, and hopefully we find out what happened to Annie and the baby.
Yeah,
I'm just
agreed.
thinking of and are you okay?
Say,
yeah, you're okay. Can we?
But there definitely seems to be something. There definitely seems to be something with Negan, in the first episode that's just off. Like, he seems like himself, but he almost. I don't know if I want to say that he seems distracted, but he just doesn't seem as focused as he normally is. Would you guys agree with that?
Over him a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my theory, was that something happened to Annie and the child, and that's why he's like this. And to Renee's point, that would make sense that the marshals and they did something to force his hand possibly with Annie and the child, and that's why he reacted the way he did. And I think that is compounded by what he says to Maggie in the second episode, where again they're talking about what Negan's telling his story about the Croat, and Negan talks about him being a monster and does not get into specifics of, I mean, he gets into some specifics, but not other specifics of what the Croat did. But then Maggie says, well, it takes a monster to make a monster. And Negan was like, no, I'm only a monster when I need to protect those that I love, or the people that, like, those that I care about, or however he said it. That is then exemplified by when they capture the guy that works for the Croat, and Negan like slits. I mean, first it was funny as hell. I think you pointed this out, where he was like, knock knock.
That was better than Little Pig, Little Pig.
Glass. Oh my god, it was such a cool, like you said, it was a cool analogy to Little Pig, but it was even better in my opinion, because Little Pig, in my opinion, was a mind fuck. That was all a mind game to fuck with Rick and his people. The same thing with the whistling in the woods and the fog, and it was all the fuck with him. The knock knock for me felt like he was trying to make a point.
Yes. That,
like, well, you're willing to do X, but I'm willing to do Y, and I'm always going to one up you. And then he finishes it off with slitting the guy's throat and disemboweling him, which, by the way, for me, it was cool to see, because it mirrored a certain kill that Negan had in the comic books.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
What do you think I was going to say?
No, I was comparing it to, oh God, I don't remember the character name, but I remember the actor, Deanna's son, played by Austin Nichols. I don't remember his name. Spencer, thank you. Yep. When he like gutted his stomach, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
So the reason I said comic book is for a very important distinction, because Spencer had a death in the show similar to the death he had in the comic book. A lot of people shit on his death in the TV show because it was a lot less gory. If you read the comic of when Spencer is killed, his guts are literally spewing out of him. I mean, within seconds, you quite literally see every bit of blood in his body, and every intestine, every organ in his body is now on the ground in front of him, and he dies.
Oh, so we kind of were on the same page a little bit.
Yeah, but in the show, there was a slice, a little bit of intestine and blood, and he's holding it in, and he dies. And I think that was along the same lines of where people said that Glenn and Abraham's death were too gory. Especially Glenn's death was too gory. I think that was them pussyfooting around it and not wanting to have too much gore, even though it's a friggin' zombie show. But anyways, it was cool to see when he slit the guy's throat and disemboweled him. He's spraying it all over these people and really kind of fucking with them, kind of playing a game. And we talked about it, that if you go back and watch that episode and you watch it, it does happen very quickly. But if you pay attention, look at Maggie's reaction. That is a woman who was traumatized. That is a woman who flashed back to the day that her husband died. When she saw him acting the way he was acting, that was the Negan that she had first met. And she was back in that moment. But then I think there's a moment where you see it click in her mind. If you go back and watch it, you see, like, almost just the way that Lauren Cohen portrayed it was beautiful. You see her expression kind of soften a little bit. The way that I took that person, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong, I think that she flashed back to the conversation she had with Negan in the bathroom when they were captured by that community they had found, where he said that I'm only a monster to protect those I care about.
No, I fully agree with you.
And I think that she saw that he took this guy off the rooftop and said, you guys go on without me. He took a risk to protect them right there. He acted like the monster that she knew, that she had first met. And I think that her initial knee-jerk reaction was she remembered the trauma of what happened with Glenn and Abraham and how she felt in that moment. But then I think she clicked and she realized what he was doing. And then you had the moment where Negan turns around and sees Maggie, and you see it in JDM's expression. You see him kind of like, he softens his shoulders a little bit, and he's like, we should go. And I think Negan realized that like he triggered Maggie, and I think that he felt genuine remorse in that moment. I don't think he felt remorse for killing Glenn. I think he's made it abundantly clear that he did what he had to do to protect his people. But I think that he didn't want Maggie to feel tortured by it. And I think that's an important distinction when it comes to Negan's character.
What I love about that whole thing, it was their movements and their facial expressions so subtle. It's easy to miss unless you're paying attention. And they pulled that off beautifully despite the goriness of it all.
Absolutely.
But I love his joke about like, you better get an umbrella.
Yeah. And, I think that one thing to realize too, and this is not to talk bad upon any actor from The Walking Dead or, actress, but if you look at the chemistry on screen that Maggie and Negan and Lauren and JDM have, I don't know that there's anybody else that they could have cast in this show to get those translations, to get those subtle body language changes, those subtle facial expression changes. Just even like when Negan was telling the story in the bathroom about the Croat and how that whole thing came about, and he called me his brother, and he's like, oh, he called me his Brushka, or whatever the hell he said. Mm-hmm. And seeing JDM talking about that, it didn't feel like Negan talking about it. It felt like Jeffrey Dean Morgan talking about it. It felt like him having remorse for helping to enable this monster for as long as he did. And I think that his body expression, his body language, his facial expressions all conveyed that he had genuine remorse for even being a part of this guy's story.
No, I fully agree with you. It was pulled off perfectly.
Yeah. So I told you guys this. So I took a bunch of notes for episode 2.
Proud of you.
And my second note, and I have to give her honorable mention, because for a woman who only spoke Hebrew and didn't say much, I really became affectionate for the pigeon lady. And so Absolutely. My second note was, who was the old Jewish lady? And it's funny because not funny, but after she died, I just crossed it out with one single line, and I wrote "never mind." And I just wanted to have it click on my mind that, oh yeah, shit, she did die. But I hope that in season 3, Jesus Christ, in episode 3 or so on, I hope we find out more about her and who she was to the people that they interacted with. Let's see, what I don't even know the notes I have. Actually, in episode 2, after Maggie and Negan first met the pigeon lady, and she takes a zip line across the building, and she kind of like ushers for them to follow her. They do a overhead shot of the gap between the buildings, and it showed the zombies were shambling about, and you could hear them and everything. I had a flashback to like OG Walking Dead when Rick was in Atlanta. Yeah, when Rick was in Atlanta.
Too.
And I saw that, and the way that they were clustered together, and like the volume and the cityscape and everything just reminded me so much of Atlanta, that like to the point we said earlier in the beginning of the show, it's enough to make you to kind of like trigger these memories of The Walking Dead, but it's also fresh enough for it to be its own thing. And I think Meg, I think you made the point. Your layman could, who's never seen an episode of The Walking Dead, could pick up Dead City, episode 1, and for the most part, I mean, yeah, there's nuances that they're not going to understand about the history of Maggie and Negan, but for the most part, you're going to understand what's going on. There's not going to be major plot plot points that you're missing.
Exactly.
So I love that.
It's not like the MCU where you're screwed.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you know what? To kind of go into that a little bit is to show a comparison. The Walking Dead, if you look at the shows, they don't need each other.
No.
They don't. They can stand on their own, except for The Walking Dead. We know it can't stand for anything. But too soon? Too soon? Had to get my jab in. I don't know. But if you like Meg, you brought up the Marvel stuff. If you miss one show or one movie, you're missing major plot points.
I'm so behind on the MCU, so I am done for.
Like I'm thankful that I watched the Netflix the Disney Plus TV shows, because there's been things that have been referenced in the movies that have come out that if you didn't watch any of the shows, you wouldn't have understood this point. You know what I mean?
WandaVision, Hawkeye, Loki. Yeah, it's like I used to say that before Endgame, it was so easy to jump into the MCU. It was so easy. But after Endgame and all the shows started to come out, like you're done for now. Like there's too much to start fresh.
Yep, absolutely. So what's up?
I was one thing I wanted to talk about in episode 1, the falling walkers. I was cracking up when I saw them starting to fall, and they still were kind of like, even when they hit the ground. There's been something every episode, I mean, we're only 2 episodes in, that has made me crack up. And I hope that trend continues. Episode 1 was the falling walkers, and episode 2 was knock knock. I'm hoping episode 3 has that too.
I saw somebody took a recording of that scene and they put Hallelujah, It's Raining Men to that. And it made it so much funnier. And I'm like, and
Can you send that to me?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. Oh my God. I saw like a week ago and I could not stop laughing. I laughed so much my stomach hurt. And it was it was so on beat, and I was just like, you're going to hell. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. You're going to hell.
It's raining men.
Hallelujah. Exactly. 100% what happened. So my next note, and thankfully I wrote these notes in order. So we kind of talked about this in our pre-show a little bit, and I want to highlight this as a point because, as you guys well know, we don't just go after the good stuff. We talk about we talk about the bad stuff too. You know what I mean? And one thing that I found a little odd was mentioning Jenny being from Oceanside. When she was being, introduced, and we're finding more out about her, the teacher said she came from Oceanside. Now, Renee, you want to talk? I know I feel like you're a little bit more knowledgeable with the timeline and stuff like that. With when you talked about the pre-show, how confusing that is.
Yeah, so I just don't. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of research on it yet, but it just seems odd that they would throw that in there because it was pretty evident in The Walking Dead that Oceanside was destroyed. They didn't say it, but Luke and Julia were like, that we were told to stay away and this and that. And we knew Hornsby had been there and those sort of things. So that part was kind of confusing. But again, we're hearing that Dead City is 2 years away from that last episode of The Walking Dead, but we're also hearing, up to 5 years because there's been interviews, like we said, writers, actors, different things. They're all saying a different thing. So I've never gotten a concrete answer to know for sure what, from the final episode of The Walking Dead to Dead City beginning, the exact timeline, because we've talked about too, like Herschel looks a little older than just 2 years older, but again, that doesn't really mean much. It's an actor. They just put who, was best for the part kind of thing. So anyway, but with Ginny's age, it's like, well, if Oceanside was destroyed, even if they kind of rebuilt, like how long could she have been there? So that, we're just not sure like why they put that in there. I mean, maybe later it'll make some sense, but it just seems like it's either just randomly thrown in there to mention it and make people happy. Oh, Oceanside, happy feelings, something, or there is a completely different reason, and we'll find out later. But it was just very odd. And again, with that timeline being unsure, it's kind of hard to really gauge what's gone on there. So
yeah, and to your point. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say to Renee's point. It could be a casting thing But with that scene with Maggie and Herschel in the bed, I mean, he looked like he was in his early teens, which, I mean, I would say he's probably 13, 14,
He's supposed to be like what,
around
15 in the
there.
show?
Is he? Well, I mean, but again, that
Not-
depends, right? It depends on the timeline.
Depends on the timeline, because initially they were saying 2 years. Everything when it first every interview, like the showrunner and I think even Scott Gimple had said like a 2 year, approximately 2 years. But then I just read a very recent interview with Lauren Cohen where she had said at least 5 years. So, and then I've read other, since then too, I've read other ones anywhere between the two, and I think even somebody said 6 years. So it's a very, it's just a real odd, because they've never like said for sure, okay, it's actually been this many years. So it's hard to know, because I mean Herschel was only, I guess I'm not even sure how old he was. He could have only been about,
I thought he was 10 when the
because
show ended.
because there was a 6 year time jump.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a baby when they left. So the 6 year, so then he would only been about what, 6, 7, 8 at the most, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's me. 8.
I failed math, so
Well, no, I'm just like trying to, because and it gets so because of all the stupid time jumps. It's just really hard. It really is hard. And remember that, okay, he was a baby, but we don't know for sure how old he,
right. It's so confusing.
Yeah. So I would say 8 at the most, but again, I could be wrong. At the end of The Walking Dead. But
I could see that though. Yeah.
And even if he was 10 and it was 2 years, he'd still only be 12 in Dead City if it was a 2 year time jump.
Way too old.
Yeah, he looks much older than that. So that's why it's just very confusing and it's really hard to piece it together. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they're throwing us off on purpose.
I feel like by the end we're gonna find out, like we're gonna find the true like yeah. You know what I'm trying to say. Words are hard.
Don't mind me, I'm just dying over here. I'm good.
When they were kind of showing Ginny's like introduction and like, oh, she's from Oceanside, it kind of reminded me a lot when Enid came onto the show and how she was like so quiet, escaping all the time. It kind of felt like that was the one thing that they were kind of rehashing, even though everything else has been so fresh. I was just like, oh, okay. New kid, awkward teen, she's got a history. What is it going to be? But I want to know more about her history. Why is Negan protecting her so much? What's her secret?
Especially because Negan has no fond memories of Oceanside. You know what I mean?
Especially
it's a very complicated history there. And you have to assume, and I hate to assume what they say about assuming, but you have to assume that anybody that would be at Oceanside at that point would have known about the history between Negan and the Oceanside. And you saw how he was treated in Alexandria and Hilltop and all these different places. I mean, he was given side eye. You know what I mean? Nobody ever really trusted him. It's more like people tolerated him because he was helping them. But I don't think that anybody had any warm and fuzzy feelings for him. So I really hope they do expand upon the Ginny Negan story and how that takes a part in Dead City, because it's obviously at this point Ginny is now so far detached from Maggie and Negan that she's at Hilltop 2.0, Brooks, whatever the hell you want to call it, and they're in New York City, but yet they're still developing her character. So what importance is she playing?
Exactly.
That's what I want.
And that's the thing too. So how long has she been with Negan? And if we're talking a 5-year time jump and she's been with Negan for 4 years, she's been with Negan the majority of her life, So it's there's a lot of stuff there, but it's the synopsis for the next episode talks about she takes a dangerous journey or something like that. So I bet she ends up in Manhattan.
I just thought of something really random. It's a weird theory. Feel free to debunk it. Is it possible when they said she was from Oceanside that they lied? They only used Oceanside as a cover up?
They said in the chat that maybe they did it to make them feel like she was, not so much of an outsider, that she was from somewhere familiar.
Yeah. Something like a cover up for a bigger thing.
Yeah. It's hard to say because they said her dad was killed. and that's why Negan, she watched her dad killed.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, it's very hard to say. Yeah.
I mean, that begs the question too, that if let's go along the thought process that they did lie about where she's from, why are they lying about it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the ulterior motive there? You know what I mean? Like, where could she have come from that you want to hide it? That's what I want to know. And I bring this up for an important reason. The Walking Dead has a great history of letting character stories just die and their character development just die. And just when a character is getting kind of built up, they do nothing with them or they get killed off. And so I'm hoping that there's some payout to why Ginny is there and that we're not just left, holding our asses and getting some payout for it.
I think as much as they've put her in the interviews and as much as she's been featured in the photography, like, when they do those cast photo shoots, she's in all of them. So she's vital to the story. And like when I did the interview and things, she was included with Gaius and Jelko. So cool. She's important. I feel like we're just getting little bits of her, but I feel like she's going to be very vital, or they wouldn't include her in all that. And if you watch, I follow her on Instagram as well. She's been in a lot of interviews. And so, I think she does have a very, very important role, whatever it will turn out to be, for sure. And then I wanted to touch on in episode 1, we didn't really talk about the Croat talking to Herschel. At the end, and that was very intriguing to me because we found a lot of information, because initially I saw his ear and I thought he got Dwighted. So I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, he got Dwighted. And so I was excited, but then I was like, crap, he just shot him. I was hoping it was a bit better story than that.
Just a shot.
That was boring.
Oh, shucks.
But it was very interesting to listen to him talk, and say, hey, have you met the man who killed your father? And he has been keeping tabs on Negan for years, because he said, the man who killed your father has been living amongst your mother's people for years.
Yep.
He has known, he has been keeping tabs on him. So that's that was, kind of fueled more of my thought process with, Maggie making a deal with him because of that. And I just thought it was very interesting. And, like he was trying to be very intimidating. Like, I don't think he's going to hurt this kid. I know just from what we've learned from Negan, he's pretty brutal and things. And I mean, from what the story he told, it was a young girl. So perhaps he would, hurt Herschel. I don't think the writers will let Herschel get hurt, but they killed his dad. So who knows? I don't know. But no, anyways, I just thought that was very interesting that he has been keeping tabs on Negan this whole time.
Yeah.
And Negan's been completely oblivious to it. So,
which is weird because Negan is not like that.
No, exactly. It just shows you his, what this man is capable of, because Negan is observant. And Negan's been around. He's gone from here to there to here to there, and it's not like he's just, So anyway, I thought that was a really good piece of information that we found just from that little conversation.
That is very cool.
Plays the Croat is really, really good. Like with the way he words his words. That's a weird sentence to say. And the way his movement is, everything is so like meticulous. It's just he's there's not many antagonists that kind of get me besides like the governor and like Alpha, but he's climbing up the ranks. He's doing really good.
And I found some backstory on his character. And I don't remember where I read this, but he was actually a scientist in his former life. And so he has actually developed their own fuel. So his group, they even have their own source of fuel somehow that he developed. So I thought that was interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah. So
which makes you wonder what the rest of the season is going to have in store.
And he's obviously very intelligent. So, there's.
One thing we didn't touch upon in the first episode, because I wasn't sure if we were about to dive into episode 2 yet, when the Croat prisoner goes to escape, before he cuts the wire, you just see this shot of him where he's looking back, and through the water tower bars you see the decrepit Empire State Building. And it's just these little nods to the city, and it's just done. That shot is so beautiful. Like that's like wallpaper worthy beautiful. And it's just the fact that it was just like, okay, let him run, snip, done. Like that was Oh my God, that just shows you how insane he is.
Yeah. But my thing, though, that's a grind my guts moment, because those are not thin wires. There's no way he could have cut that.
Oh, I agree with you.
Not with
100%.
scissors. You would.
100%.
No.
So
I
anyway,
kind of suspended reality for a little
me
bit.
too. Yeah, because it was cool.
Yeah, I was willing to let it slide for that.
And the other thing that kind of bothered me, that was a sad part, because everyone in the trailer thought that guy was a variant walker.
Yes,
he was leaned over and running like that.
Yes,
when it was just a man, I was like, oh man.
But I gotta say, for being a prisoner, his parkour skills are still on point.
Yeah,
so
but
that
he
was
was
pretty
all
cool.
fooled though. That's the bad part. I was hoping for some variants, but oh well, we'll get him in
one
Daryl
thing.
Dixon.
If Talking Dead had been around, you know how like they always name like the kills.
Yeah.
I always wondered like what his kill would have been called.
Hey, we'll have to start doing that. We'll have to call him.
I like
we'll
that.
have to start doing that. We can pick it up if
we'll make a list of all the deaths and we'll think of a funny name for them.
Yeah.
All right,
we'll work on that going forward.
Yeah, we'll definitely backtrack on that. All right, episode 2, take it away.
Well, I mean, we've kind of been covering, an amalgamation of 1 and 2 together, but the next thing I want to talk about is the Marshal, and the scene where he goes to that apartment building, and he's in there. Unless I missed it, but I don't think I did. We don't really know who that person was that had killed themselves, do we?
His brother.
It was 100% his brother? We know it for a fact?
Yep.
They confirmed it.
His name is Joel Armstrong. Remember on the little sheet of paper, he had that, he had a name.
Oh, that's
it's on
right.
like the envelope or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
So it was his
right.
brother.
And
then there
plus
was
you see the photos.
There's a photo of like him and his brother, and then there was a photo of them with their parents.
Okay, yeah, I saw the photo, but I wasn't sure like who that was or how that played into it. But okay, that makes sense.
For a scene with no words, it was still pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it tugged at your heartstrings, and like you didn't even know this character, and you've known the other character for like one episode, and you know nothing about him, but it still got you.
Yeah.
And I think that episode 1, but more specifically episode 2, had such an emotional overtone to it, and I mean that in the best possible way, because it had every range of emotion you could possibly, that you could ask for in an episode. I mean, it was, the episode wasn't even a full hour long. Like, to get that kind of feeling, to get that kind of emotion invoked in one episode of a TV show is not easy to do.
No.
And there was a lot of storytelling that happened in this episode. We talked about Negan and his history with the Croat, the Marshal and his brother, flashbacks to Maggie with Herschel, and all the stuff that was being told in this episode was just done really well. And go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
No. I can say it after.
No, all I was going to say was that it just felt like the Walking Dead was back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way that I could say
with a minimal cast. This is proof of what you could do with a minimal cast, and you don't need 30,000 cast members, both supporting and core. And like you said, Walking Dead is back.
Yep.
And we're missing a very important two things I need to talk about. Number one, Maggie's dream.
Wait,
I did not approve of
again
that part of the episode 1.
Remind me again of the dream.
Glenn's death. I did not need to see that again. I have never ever watched that episode again.
I was fine with it.
And I was just like, I sat in my chair, I was watching, and I pushed my chair back. Luckily there's shelves here. I would have kept going. And I out loud said, what are they doing? And then they just kept showing it and showing it and showing it. And I'm just like, I did not need to see it that many times over again. But I thought it was wonderful though, because it reminded us where her mind is. It reminded us what Negan did. It was, you know what I mean? Like it was a shock, I guess. And I thought it was very brave of them to do it, because they don't do many brave things in the Walking Dead anymore. They just got very afraid to try to push the envelope or do anything. So I was just very proud of all the creators for doing that, because I'm like finally somebody got the balls to do something gutsy. And just
Literally.
like you said with the gore, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's why we watch this show. We we watch it for the stories, we watch it for the characters and all that. But at the root of it, it is an apocalyptic series. We know there's going to be gore. We know there's going to be these things. And so I just thought it was just so well done because it was a total shock. I didn't expect it. And yeah, so anyway, so bravo to them for that. And then the other one I wanted to mention was I love how, like you were saying, that somebody could watch this and not have watched The Walking Dead before.
Yeah.
But I do like how they're feeding pieces of it into, like, Pearlie is telling the bar about Negan's history. Do you know this man did this and this man did this? And, you know, I mean, like, it was so, it didn't feel forced. It felt just like he was just explaining, hey guys, this man is wanted for good reason. It's not like we're just out trying to cause trouble. Law and order is what I'm about. I'm doing these things. And this is why, because in the previous life, this is what this man did, you know, but we all already knew that story, but maybe a lot of viewers didn't, you know? And so I just liked how they used that. And like you said, you wouldn't have to know all that detail, but those little pieces help kind of tell the story.
Same with Glenn's death.
Yeah, exactly. Because no one would know that. Those pieces were, you know, all of us know
it's integral to the story.
Yeah. And you know, you may not have to know all the details, just know, okay, Negan did something really bad to Maggie. And that might suffice. But to see what Negan did and
you got an idea of his level of insanity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which again then set up the season 2 or the episode 2 scene with the guts, because everybody's like, there we go, there he is.
One thing from episode 1 that really, like, you know, Ryan was saying before with like every range of emotion, the one thing I freaked out about, Renee, when you were saying Glenn's death, it kind of reminded me when they were hiding in the alley and all like the bugs from like,
oh yes,
oh my god, I squirmed so much. I had Zoe on my lap and she's just like, what's happening? What's happening? Like that was
Did you see the I forgot who it was talking about the episode afterwards, and he had said like that was like Jeffrey's like actual reaction to cockroaches. Like that was an authentic reaction. He doesn't like cockroaches.
Who does?
And so when he was like, "Oh hell no," and he like walked away, like ran away, that was his authentic reaction. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So
pretty cool. Note.
I was a guest star on a podcast called Screens in Focus.
Yes, I saw that.
Well, she always asks a question of the day. So when we start out the podcast, she always has it for her guest. She has a question. So her question was, what was worse, the cockroaches or the rat that came out of the walker's mouth? And I said, the cockroaches all day long, because they were everywhere and they squirmed. There was one rat and they usually get frightened and run. But those cockroaches, to me, I said, this cockroach is what was worse. I said,
they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, I think it's funny, you know, here we are, we're all looking at this apocalyptic series. It's not the walkers, it's the cockroaches and the rats that we're grossed out by.
Because like, you know, you think about it, we don't think about this a lot, but I know we've mentioned it, like, you know, the smell of all the walkers, the rotting flesh. And here we are complaining about cockroaches. But it's like, imagine just having to deal with that day in and day out. Because I loved that they showed that, because it's not something you normally think about within the show, but it's showing the reality of a walker infestation.
Yeah, it's true.
I want to know more about, in episode 2, I don't remember his name, the bald guy. Now I'm gonna say Tommaso or something.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
I don't say these words often, but holy shit, he's hot.
Everybody is freaking out about this man.
Oh my god, I'm in love. Like
everybody is like, okay, he's the new hottie.
Yeah. Like I always say,
I'll try to interview him, Megan, and I'll try to get him on our show.
Please. Like I always say, like, you know, like Ross Marquand's my husband, but Ross has got some competition.
He is a handsome fella. Yes, he is.
I hope he's as nice as he seems.
Jonathan Higginbottom is his name, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to look him up and see what else he's been in.
Yeah. But yeah,
I would definitely love to get some of the Dead City people on.
Yeah.
We could easily do that.
Just to see, because, you know, again, because like to the point that we've been making the whole show, you know, Renee, you brought up the bar scene, right? If you watch that, I honestly God thought it was a flashback. I'm like, it's a fucking bar. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. I'm like, maybe we're going like Fear the Walking Dead episode 1, flashback to the outbreak. Like, what the fuck is this? And then the episodes are unraveling, and we saw we saw everybody there, and I'm like, okay, no, this is way after the fact. All right, cool, because it really felt like almost like a movie, and had nothing to do with The Walking Dead. If you just turned it on and saw that bar scene at
You'd have
first,
no idea.
you'd have no idea it's The Walking Dead.
Speaking of the bar scene, something I can't believe we didn't talk about when Maggie gets in that fight and she kicks her heel back and the knife pops out.
Oh,
Like now, Ryan, you would understand this analogy. It reminded me of Assassin's Creed when the blade just pops out of his arm.
Blade, yep.
Oh my god! I was like, how the hell is she hiding that blade? Like I saw, I understand the mechanics of it, but I was like, what? Where has this been in all the million years of the apocalypse?
It reminds me
so
of
well
the wow
done.
factor of Carol's brass knuckle knife.
Yes. Yes.
It was like that wow factor, or
anytime there's a hidden
Carl's
weapon, I always get like that.
cocaine suppressor that he made. You know what I mean? Like outlandish shit, but I love it.
Like Eugene's bullets in season 8.
Yeah.
The shiv boot, like all Carol's brass knuckles. I love when there's hidden weapons, and then it's just like that. Oh my god.
Daryl's 22nd century fucking rifle that he had when the
I forgot about that.
when the Saviors attacked Alexandria.
Yeah. And what was it? Abraham with the rocket launcher.
With the RPG. Yeah.
That one is just like so off center, like left field. I love it.
As outlandish as it is, I love it. And like whenever I see some crazy ass weapon, it reminds me of Z Nation. Like with some of the crazy shit that happens, like they had like the cheese wheel, the giant ass cheese wheel that like was killing all the zombies.
I forgot about
that. Right? Like shit like that was I love it. I don't know.
I just any movie or show, I love when it's a crazy kill. Like Sharknado, people died with a Ferris wheel, ran over them. Like
yeah,
I just love that.
Or you talk about Zombieland with like the kill of the week.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like the old lady. The old lady in the first movie, she was being chased by a zombie, and she pulls like the string, like the piano, jumps on top, like lands on top of the zombie.
Now I want to go watch that again.
Oh, such a great movie.
Oh, 100%. And if you watch the second one, we'll see Oscar.
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah, he's one of the T 1000s or whatever the fuck they're called.
Are they 1900s or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So do you guys have anything else for episodes 1 and 2?
Felt like there was something when you guys were talking, and now I can't remember what it was.
Oh, Maggie, when she got stuck ziplining and she wouldn't accept help.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that one?
It almost looked like she was almost on the verge of like some kind of panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if her refusal to get help from Negan was more to do with the fact that she doesn't like Negan, or if it had to do with the fact that she was embarrassed and was trying to fix a problem herself.
I kind of looked at it as she was having flashbacks to the season 11 premiere when he left her for dead. Like she was afraid that if she accepted help, he would let go and let her fall to her death.
Yes, yeah, I thought it was more of a height thing because she was very timid at the window, even like she grabbed on. She was really like the height, thing seemed to really bother her. I mean, which it could have been a little bit of both or whatever, but I feel like she had some fear of heights there too for some reason.
Same.
Yeah, which I mean, absolutely that high up. I mean,
on a rickety zip line that's like years old.
You have no idea.
Especially when JDM or Negan was like, he goes, "Ladies first," and she was like, "No, you first."
That's cool.
and he just kind of chuckled, like, and he got on because it's Negan. He's fearless. You know what I mean? But for her, she, like, to Renee's point, was hesitant. So I almost wonder if it has to do with what's that called? Is it agoraphobia, where it's a fear of heights?
No, that's when you stay inside.
Is that what agoraphobia is?
Yeah, like you don't want to leave the house.
I don't remember what fear of heights is, but yeah.
Yeah, I hope we do see more ziplining because in every trailer they've purposely like emphasized about it, and we barely got it episode 1. We just got a little more at episode 2, so I hope we get to see more of it.
Oh, I'm sure we will, because they made a big thing of it, like in the interviews early on, like the showrunner and stuff.
Yeah.
He was very excited about the zip lining and stuff. I remember that was one of the first things I think even I know it was the president of AMC. He even mentioned it in the first things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I feel like it's going to be more. And if you look on the opening segment and things, you can see their zip lining and stuff like that. So I think it will. Yeah, I think it'll play more.
The opening credits are so refreshing, by the way.
Yeah, and watch them because they are changing a bit too.
I have to go back and watch it now because I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, I haven't gone back to watch them all, but I did see. I was like, wait a minute, I don't, so I noticed a few things, but I need to go back and double check to make sure it just wasn't my eyes, But yeah.
Oh, totally unrelated to Dead City, but I just got a notification that it's being shipped out. Tales of the Walking Dead is getting a physical release. It's out already.
Oh, nice.
So
cool.
I ordered the Blu-ray and I just got a notification that it shipped out.
Very cool.
I don't know if we got a press release about that. I was trying to remember.
I saw it on I was just scrolling through Best Buy's app and I saw it on there.
I'm looking up right now to see if I
believe it or not, the Blu-ray was cheaper than the DVD. Only by like
Makes sense.
$2, but still.
DVDs are becoming a thing of the past very quickly.
Well, you know me with my physical media.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I did
30,000 boxes.
I wrote that up already. I was just making sure. I was like, that was 2 months ago.
Renee's
I didn't know about it till the other day.
I'm not sure.
Well, because sometimes they put them out so early, they tell you like so far, and it's like no one's gonna remember by the time they come out, but
usually I go on this one website and I always check like new releases, but I haven't gone in a while, and I just happened to be on Best Buy and I looked at new releases. I was like,
yeah,
instant buy.
Eliza got hers at Walmart, she said.
There you go. See, I like Best Buy. I have the credit card, so I get the reward points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I treat myself for like birthdays or rainy days or if I'm sad.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
That's how I paid for my new camera. I paid like half of it with rewards.
Oh, we used to do that with our Best Buy all the time and buy like, I think, dishwasher, microwave. Yeah.
That thing, my very first weekend when I moved to my house, I had to replace my my washer and dryer. I replaced so many things at this damn place. Best Buy, bought my TV at Best Buy. I even bought my entertainment center at Best Buy.
Yep. Why not?
I had you get the points. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That was a good birthday that year with all the rewards.
Yeah. So the next episode, I was trying to remember what the synopsis had said. I know Jenny, something about her
on a dangerous adventure,
mission, or some kind of thing. I'm pulling it up because I just wrote it today, but it said Maggie and Negan will form a strategy, and Armstrong will be tested, and Jenny will go on a daring journey. So that was the official synopsis. So we will see what that means.
Very cool.
I'm actually like looking forward to Sundays again.
Yeah. It's
Daryl's show, however. Not looking forward to that.
I think I think it's going to be good once I'm not the whole how does he get there thing, that part. Like, let's just skip over that and let's just get in there and not even explain that, because I feel like that's going to be wonky.
If they could do that via flashbacks, that's different.
Maybe that, I don't know, because they already showed, like they showed him the one, there's been like 3 little teasers, and the one like showed him on washing on shore, like his face is in the sand and all that kind of stuff. But I think the it's going to be a lot different than anything that we've seen for sure. And, Norman Reedus is executive producing, which I love that these actors are executive producing, just like Jeffrey and Lauren are. And then I know Denai and Andy are on their spinoff, because I feel like they just, as actors, they pay more attention to what the fans want.
Yes.
Because, not that the writers maybe don't care, creators don't care, but just that they are more vested in the fan. You know what I mean? They just are. Or the Walking Dead actors are all just more in tune with their fans, and so they kind of know what they want. They know what they expect. Plus, they have played these characters for so many years.
I was just going to say that.
And they
would say, my character would never do this.
Exactly.
Instead, they would do that.
Right. They would do it this way, or they would do whatever. So I feel like, I think we've got that going for us with the Daryl series, but I also feel there are some, nice familiar names involved with that. But on the other hand, we do have a lot of French actors. We have a lot of French writers. We have a lot of new blood. So I think that the Daryl series does have that going for it, because it'll have a lot of new blood as well. It'll be a good meld of old and new. And just the one little teaser that they showed, the cinematography looks beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I think that again, we're going to see just such a drastic difference from the woods, that we've just been in the woods for so long. And so just like we're seeing all this, this urban city and the, like you said, the familiar like the familiar landmarks of New York City and things like that, we're going to see some of that in France as well. And I know I saw one sign, it was like the Marseille sign, and it was all falling down and everything.
Yeah.
That just little things, not that they're as familiar to us as New York, because we see New York when you guys live there, but we see it in a lot of movies and shows and things. And so it's way more familiar, but I'm trying to hold out hope, because of course Daryl's my favorite, but this whole washing ashore thing, I'm just like,
it's so far-fetched.
Well, it isn't, because if the CRM has helicopters, why in the world wouldn't they have ships?
That's true.
And so my thing is, they put him on a ship because he said he gets into trouble. He went looking for something and he got into trouble. So I feel like he was looking for Rick. He gets in trouble with the CRM. They throw him on a ship and they send him over. The ship gets shipwrecked. So that's why he's on the lifeboat.
Yep.
That's my thing. I'm like, okay, so that would be okay. I could handle that, if it's that simple. But if they make it something, absurd, it'll be harder to take in. So yeah,
I'm gonna watch it. And like you said, the cinematography is phenomenal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think I like Daryl. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not like, oh my god. So I mean, it's gonna. I think I'm gonna struggle a little bit, but I'm gonna watch it. Obviously,
yeah. I know a couple of the actors they're really good actors, like the Clemcy Posey and Adam. I'm not sure I say his name, Negatus, maybe. But I've seen him in some things, and he's a really good actor. And so I think that they've got, and they're two of the main characters. And then there's that little boy. I'm not sure that little boy's ever acted in anything else before. But anyway, there's again, you just got a good meld of different people and things. So
it'll be interesting to see it.
Yeah, it'll be, for sure. So we'll see. But
I had a laugh at this one comparison. I don't know if anybody's made it, but I just happened to notice it. There's this game that Norman Reedus stars in called Death Stranding. Mm-hmm. And people have pegged the game as basically a walking simulator. Mm-hmm. So the whole time I was watching the teaser for Daryl Dixon, I was just like, it's Death Stranding 2.0. It's just a whole walking simulator.
That's funny.
But it'll be cool when it comes out. It's nice that 13 years later it's still expanding and it's fresh. Like they're not repeating, like it's not the MCU formula. Mm-hmm. They're finding ways to keep viewers, involved and inviting new people, I should say.
Mm-hmm. And I'm most excited because we're going to see the dang variant walkers.
Finally.
Yep.
Yes. Let's get those in there and let's start. Yeah.
Oh, that warehouse he was in, that was the same one from the end of World Beyond, or similar.
I was going to do side by sides on that because I really, I wanted to think it was, but I don't know that it is. So
yeah, or maybe they're just trying to make viewers think, and it's just really something else.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we'll find out.
I kind of hope there's a tie-in to like the French like CDC, like what like when we saw the CDC episode, and
like between Jenner and
exactly. I want to see them explain, because I believe the Dr. Jenner, right? That's his name.
Jenner.
Yeah.
He had said something about France being one of the last places that was still standing.
Yep.
I kind of want to, especially because of what we saw in
World Beyond.
Thank you. I want to see that connection. I want to see those puzzle pieces fit together, because when they did the CDC episode, I know a lot of people were like, I hate it. I actually loved it personally.
Yeah, it was great.
But it got a lot of flack, and I want to see that payout. I want to see that, 12 years later, 13 years later, we're still getting our bang for our buck with things that happened back in season 1, back in the early days of Walking Dead. That would be such a nice little, ribbon on top of the gift, especially if Daryl, even if it was something like some passing comment or like some printed out email that Daryl finds in like a in a lab somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I would just love that. It would be so satisfying to see that.
Well,
I want to see France fall. I love watching the cities fall, like with fear, especially because, like you said, France was one of the last cities. So it would be cool to see like how they find out about the rest of the world, and then boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the World Beyond, the post-credit scene came out, Scott Gimple did what he said. This was before any of the spinoffs had been announced, and he said, "Just hold on, this is building to something completely different." So he was alluding to the Daryl series, obviously, and so so I have a feeling that it's there'll be definite tie-in somehow, and there'll be maybe we'll get some of those questions answered and stuff. So I really, just from his what he said in that interview right after, trying to explain some of the stuff that went on in that scene, because people, of course, the speculations were just running everywhere, and so I think we will find out some information.
Speculations were running and running walkers. I just put 2 and 2 together. I'm excited for the future of The Walking Dead.
Absolutely. And Dead City has really reinforced for me that they are able to do this. And like to Renee's point, for them to include the actors as directing episodes, for me, I look back at like when they did it like Michael Kudlitz and stuff like that. Those are some of my favorite episodes. And again, because they give a perspective that the other directors and producers don't have. Like they see it through they see it through the director the blinders. But the actors could sit there, and I think Meg made that point. They could sit there and say, my character would never do that.
Yes.
Or, okay, this is their line. This is how they're going to portray it, because they know their character.
Yeah,
they know their character intimately,
like,
more than anybody else.
Blue. Negan like, that motherfucking sky is blue.
Exactly. And it's funny because I made a note that this was it was like one of my favorite Negan lines from episode 2. But he goes, "It's just a ball of fun hanging with you, ain't it?" Talking to Maggie, and she like kind of like, just if you go back and look at her face, she just kind of like just looks at him like, Jesus Christ. And it's funny for me because it felt like that was JDM talking to Lauren.
Yeah, and they have such a history even before Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it felt so authentic. Is what the best part. Like it felt like not only was it Negan talking to Maggie, but it was JDM talking to Lauren, and I loved it.
I feel like he would text her that, and she would just reply with like this emoji.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could feel like that would be him like saying that to her in casual passing conversation on set, like in between takes. He says that to her, and she just like rolls her eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's gonna be cool to see how this goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys got anything else for episodes 1 or 2?
Nope. I think I'm done.
All right. I think we broke it down pretty well. Are we gonna aim for next week possibly?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the holiday, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I know we got Chris's birthday next week too, so probably maybe we may have to do it Monday or Thursday, so we'll have to regroup and figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Well, I would say we will let you know, but Renee is the beautiful brains behind this, so she will let you know because she handles all that stuff. She's better at it than any of us, so good for her. So Renee, we'll get that information out to you guys, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking in, because I know that this was a very modified show from what it really is. But I've been horribly sick for like the past like week or 2-ish weeks, and it's gotten worse like this week, and I'm finally starting to feel better, thankfully. But I didn't want to go to Chris's house like this, and then he had an emergency at work because of the wacky weather that we've had in upstate New York and the tri-state area. So he's stuck at work right now. So thank you for hanging in, guys. I really appreciate it.
Our group chat has been nothing but like, this happened, this is to this person, this happened to that person. And it's like every time my phone goes off, I'm like, oh God, what happened now?
Yeah, I woke up and I felt horrible.
I love that you put a disclaimer though.
Well, yeah, I was like,
disclaimer, I'm not calling out.
I don't want people to think that I was like, oh, this guy's calling out again. No, I'm just kidding. But I always want the show to go on, but I also want to make sure that we're giving you guys as good of content as we can possibly do. We don't want to give you guys some half-ass stuff. So thank you for hanging in, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you
What
guys
he
so
said.
much.
Absolutely. So here's the hard part: is me trying to find out how to end the live stream from Zoom. Let's see, shall we?
If you just hit no, don't hit end call because that would
Oh,
cut
it's
us
okay.
out.
It's easy. It says stop live stream. So I mean,
Oh,
that's
okay.
Easy peasy.
1, 2, 3, right?
Well, we'll see you guys next time then.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy your 4th of July if you're